Hello and welcome to GG Weekend Watch, kindly sponsored by Katana, with myself, Kate Tracy, alongside Andrew Mapp and Dave Young, to look ahead to the not quite 5Ds of dodgeball, but the 4Ds of Derby Day at Epsom. We have the Diamond, the Dash, the other Dash, and the Derby and Dodge. Then to round off Saturday's action, of course, we do also have the Princess Elizabeth Stakes, so loads to look forward to on Saturday, one of the biggest days in the calendar. And the lads were in good form yet again last week. Now, in the opening contest at Haydock, Andrew Sergeant Wilco placed fourth, but with an SP of 25-1. Then in the 210 at Chester, Andrew's Never So Brave was denied by a nose. Matty's Holguin nabbed third at 18-1. Now, the lads have both put up Chagrin, who ran a blinder in the Achilles Stakes, in third, but Andrew also suggested Balmoral Lady, who was hammered into 11-2 and won like a good thing. Both Andrew and Matty said that Estrange would simply be too good in the Leicester Piggott Stakes, and she was an emphatic winner. Scenic was another winner for Andrew at 7-2 in the Bronte Cup over at York. Now, there was no winner in the 333 at Haydock, but Matty suggested that Volterra for the Royal Hunt Cup at 20-1 prior to the race. He is much shorter now after that eye-catching run and after finishing at third. So well done then to the lads for that. But we roll on as ever, and we're going to kickstart with the 1 o'clock at Epsom. This is the Group 3 Princess Elizabeth Stakes, 3-year-olds and over a mile and have a furlong. Dave, do you want to kick us off?
Yes, I will. It feels weird not to be hosting this week. It's
you can sit back and relax, sort of.
I can't. Yeah. Well, this week it does feel a bit better as well. The fact that it's the Derby weekend as well, like, it's always good, isn't it? With the Oaks on the Friday and then this card to get stuck into. It always reminds me of the previous year as well. So that's quite a good little in for this first race, because Royal Dress was so unlucky in this race last year when Breege won. Was asked relatively early, I'd say, in the home straight for a bit of an effort, but that was probably to try and get some room as well. Moved off, but was just a very eye-catching, unlucky loser. Now, it isn't always the case with these horses. When they get beat in a decent race, they manage to go and pick up a nice prize again later on. But she ran after at Ascot, didn't she? And she wasn't beaten out of sight, but she was well beaten in a Group 2. But then she did go and win a Group 3, which is the same level at the Curragh after, when she was a big price again. So obviously I wasn't on her then, and I was a little bit frustrated. But I feel like, as much as that's some group race redemption, I think she's been like trained in mind to coming back and have another crack at this. It was good to soft last year. There's been a bit of rain already about Epsom, hasn't there? They watered on Tuesday as well. So I don't think the official go-in will be as slow as the reality of the racing. We'll obviously find out more about that on Friday. But all I'm saying is I think it will be at least as soft as it was last year for her. And she does handle bad ground. She won a handicap, didn't she, on heavy ground a long time back. So it's a competitive looking betting heat. When you look at it, it's like 5-1 for about 4 or 5 horses in here. But I think it's much more straightforward than that. I think that Royal Dress should be favourite for this race. I think she's been targeted for it. I'd forgive her the last run because I fancy her, but if her last run was pretty bad, See the Fire was obviously is a very good horse, and she was much better than everything that day. I put up the second Beautiful Love, who was a bad drifter, and I backed her again after, and she was just terrible. But Royal Dress couldn't even hold her off when she drifted on the day. So it wasn't a very eye-catching comeback run. But the fact that Buick's been booked this time and she was unlucky in this race 12 months ago, I think all the signs just suggest that you can just put a line through that last run. It was a prep for this. And if that is true, the 6-1 about her with Batano now can't last. I would imagine she'll go off clear favourite. And if there is a bit of market support for her as well, I think she'll get that redemption from 12 months ago. So Royal Dress would be one of my stronger fancies on Derby weekend.
We've got a huge soft spot for this mare, haven't we, on this show? 6-1, as you say, top price with Batana. I mean, straight away, you just look at the fact that she's trained by James Tate, she's owned by Saeed Manana, and she's by Night of Thunder. I naturally adore her because that is my holy trinity right there. Andrew, you definitely adore her because I'm pretty certain, did you not nap her? You definitely sided with her when she won at Goodwood in that listed fillies stakes at 33-1, but I can't remember if it was quite a nap or not.
Bless you for saying that. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Night of Thunder when there's any cut in the ground. I did tip her up on this channel when she won on her debut for James Tate in that Goodwood race. I think I bet her at 16-1 without best odds guarantees. Just won at 33s. But you know, can't complain about things like that. And the interesting thing here is the draw, because if the rain that's forecast does get into the ground at Epsom and it's soft enough for them to come stand side in the straight on Oaks Day, which looks possible, then stall 2 could be tricky. However, there is an awful lot of pace in this race. particularly among the high numbers. You've got Spark Fly, who pretty much makes running every time that she runs. You've also got, she's coming out of stall 8. You've got Sunfall in stall 11, Spiritual in 10, Serona in 7. So I think they're going to, my guess is it's going to be soft enough for the stand rail to come into play. They're all going to swing wide into the straight. It's going to be a mad dash for that stand side rail. Hopefully, Royal Dress can just track across, get to the rail, but behind a wall of horses, and just be ridden for luck by William Buick. Now, she's about 6-1 second favourite or thereabouts, I think. And the market has been a really good guide to this race in recent years. If you check out 2020, which is a COVID-affected year, we had some funny results. And some of these races, they changed the conditions of them as well. So ignore that one. The last 10 runnings have gone to the front three in the one of the front three in the betting 9 times out of 10. Back them blind, you make a profit of £11.80 to a £1 level stake at SP. Royal Dress is likely to fall into that category. She's got a good record when fresh, particularly when they're going soft. If you just back to below group 2 level when rested for a month or longer, 4 wins from 6 starts and a very good profit. I wasn't sort of disappointed with that comeback run at York, because good to firm ground at York was not ideal for her. And here she is in a race that Dave said was, she was bang unlucky in last. I mean, Bree's just never won, So the fact that Bree just won a race, there must be X number of hard luck stories in behind. So I think everything's, it's just a case of in the last sort of furlong, if they all congregate up the stand side rail, will she get a clear run? Hopefully, yes. But at sort of 5 or 6 to 1 or thereabouts, I'm prepared to take the chance. So yeah, Royal Dress for me as well.
Yeah, and 6-1, like you say, for all that we talk about the top 2 or 3 in the betting there. I mean, she is right there, isn't she? And if she shortens up a little bit, then she's going to be bang there to further boost that trend as well. So in agreement with our opening contest with Royal Dress at 6-1 with Vitano. Right, on to the 135 now. The first of the Ds, the Group 3 Diamond Stakes, 3-year-olds and over a mile and half a furlong. Now, we do have plenty of horses we know lots about in here. Docklands, though, it is who heads the betting at 7-4, Andrew.
Yeah, I want to take on Docklands here. I'm hoping that he gets beat because the ground will be too soft for him. But then on the back of that, I want to back him for the Queen Anne at Royal Ascot, where I think he'll run well. So it's a case of you don't want him to finish out the back of the telly, but you wouldn't mind him finishing sort of, 2 or 3 lengths back in sort of 3rd or 4th place, and perhaps we'll get a better price at Royal Ascot. A good comeback run at Ascot last time out in listed company, going down by half a length. But you look at his you sort his form by Racing Post ratings, and his best runs have come at Ascot, and they've also come on good or faster going. So assuming it's going to be good to soft, perhaps even softer, I think Docklands is vulnerable here, particularly with stall 2, maybe not ideal if they do come swing wide in the straight. And the obvious one for me is Persica for last year's easy winner. And I mean, he was outclassed last time out in the Lock-Inge at Newbury, but he's got a good record below Group 1 company when he's been returned to the track within 4 weeks of his previous start. 5 wins from 6 runs and a profit of £22 to a £1 level stake. He's got some fella called Ryan Moron. Is he a £7 player? I never heard of him. So stall 7 as well. New Bay, another sire that gets plenty of winners on this sort of ground. So I think everything is right here. I think they've got the wrong favourite. I mean, at the moment, I think the best prices are sort of 15 to 8 Docklands, 11 to 4 Persica. I think they'll flip-flop, and Persica will be favourite, particularly if that forecast rain arrives. There's rain at Epsom today, Thursday when we're recording this, fairly dry tomorrow on Oaks Day, but there's at least 8 or 9 millimetres forecast to fall before racing on Saturday. So as Dave said, they watered on Tuesday. I think it's going to be pretty sloppy by the time they line up for this, and that high draw could be an advantage.
Could well be then, yeah. Persica, I mean, they're getting closer and closer in the betting, Docklands and Persica with Betano. Docklands at 7-4, Persica now at 2-1, so they are getting ever closer. So I wouldn't be surprised if they did flip-flop for that favouritism. Dave, who are you siding with?
Yeah, I mean, Andrew's made the good case in point in there. And I think with Docklands as well, I don't want to be harsh on horses because I was napping up Brave Man's Game earlier in the season, but I think Docklands is a bit of a bridal merchant, isn't he? They run him in Group 1s and he's just not good enough for a Group 1, a la Brave Man's Game. Then they run him in a listed race and he just doesn't go through with it. So as much as this is a bit harder than what he's a bit easier than what he's been doing in the Group 1s. It is a little bit harder than those listed races, but he's going to come up against those listed type horses that he just can't get past in other races. So he hasn't won since 2023 either, is he? He is just one of them. Again, like a brave man's game, they'll go and dot up when you're against them. But I agree with Andrew that he shouldn't be favourite for this race, and I think Persica will go off favourite. It's interesting with that as well, with the difference in the prices, because betting without Docklands, you can get 6-4 Persica on Batano's website, which doesn't look terrible when he's 2-1 to win it full stop, because you are alleviating that rogueness in there. But as I say, I think he's a bit of a bridle merchant, so he's going to beat him anyway. I'm not overly excited to get stuck into him though at the price that he is. Like even the 11-4 top price obviously does look good because 2-1 is the price that's generally available. I can see him short on him, but I just think that maybe there could be a horse in here that could be a bit classier. So again, where I poo-poo Docklands and say that he's like a bit of a listed horse, or he's a bridle merchant in there. And as much as Persica's a nice horse, he's got those bits of form, isn't he, with that Aiden, however we were saying it, and then he did dot up on this card, didn't he, when he beats Portsmouth in that handicap? Like, he's got Ryan Moore on there. He's got everything to say that he should be the right favourite. But I did think that Royal Playwright is very interesting. Now, I went back to 1997 and no 3-year-old winner of this race comes up in there, but there's been quite a few of these that have placed the 3-year-olds. So there is obviously 8 runners or 9 runners in here. There's going to be 3 places up for grabs. So there could be a place each way option that lies in here with Royal Playwright. Gets lots of weight from these. Obviously, it is the weight for age allowance, but I think he's just an all right horse. He looked like he didn't stay last time out in there. So the types of horses that he was in against then, like the Lion of Winter and all the horses that are going for the Derby, he's decided to come here rather than going for like a Derby, as this looks like a feasible option because he just doesn't stay the trip. But they obviously know that he's quite a good horse. They tried him in some decent company and he wasn't completely disgraced in there. So as much as this is a Group 3 in name, it might not be a Group 3 type horse that needs to win it. And I do think that Royal Playwright has got the capabilities to be that type of horse, and he's getting those bits of weight. So I am a little bit nervous about the fact that 3-year-olds haven't won this race, but trends are there to be broken. The place perspective, it's 7 of the 18 have placed. So at 10-1, Royal Playwright each way feels like the way I might side with this. But I do agree with Andrew that Persica should be favourite, and he probably is the one to beat.
So enough of an agreement there. But Andrew, as Dave was just backing you up there, you wanted to say something else?
Yeah, just one horse we didn't mention, Geography, coming out of stall 6, the German raider. Mr. Schergen, is it Peter? I'm not sure.
Schergen, yeah.
Peter Schergen, yeah. Now, his British runners this century, 5 winners from 41, profit of £8.50 to a £1 level stake. 21 of the 41 runners finished 1st, 2nd, 3rd or 4th. So he tends not to bring them over here unless they've got a very good chance. And certainly from a place pot each way or place only perspective at a bigger price, he would be the one that I consider the biggest danger.
Oh, okay. That's the biggest danger. Yeah, Peter Schergen sending one over. Like you say, you don't see it too much over here, do you? You see it in France plenty, and he has loads of success, as we know, when he takes his horses to some big contests over in France. But yeah, Geography then at 8-1. And that is top price with Batano. Royal Playwright also top price 10-1 each way for Dave. But Dave in agreement that Persica should be favourite over Docklands in that 135. Right, we're on to the 3-year-old dash now. Not to be confused with the actual dash. This is for the 3-year-olds, 0-95 contest over 5 furlongs. Now, this race, it's always a bit terrifying to watch. You are kind of watching through closed fingers because these are pretty young horses still, Dave, aren't they? And they are going 1 billion miles an hour over the fastest 5 furlongs in the land. So who wins?
Lord knows. And the problem I think with races like this, as we found last year when I was all over Silky Wilkie and he didn't even get a place, is I definitely wasn't right in that instance because obviously I was well wrong. But I feel like you could analyze this, you could see things in horses, what they've done in previous races, and you still require so much good fortune for things to pan out your way in these races. They are probably bad betting races would be my take on them. But Mademoiselle was a horse that as a 2-year-old, I thought was potentially going to be better than she ended up the season. She has got up £3 for the handicap run she ran in last time, but I still think she's miles better than a mark of 86. She's a horse that does need to be ridden prominently and prefers to make all. And I know that's probably the want of most sprinters, but you do get a few that are quite happy to be held up. She was held up on her 2-year-old debut. and that was fine. I think it's just a fact-finding mission. But the time after she went out, and Moorlam beat her at Thirsk. Moorlam's a horse that I really like. I think she's a pretty special filly. But I looked at the two of them, and I thought they're both going to be pushing like Pattern Company. Now, she hasn't got to that sort of level. There's been potential excuses after, but a couple of times when they've held her up, she just hasn't been able to see her race properly. Now, a run at the beginning of this, well, a run last time out, so the first run of this season, looks like it probably could be a prep run for this. She was up against that Ruby's Prophet, who's like a greyhound out the trap. She always just flies out the stalls, and she did that. Mademoiselle wasn't exactly steady, but she wasn't the quickest out of it. But it didn't look like they were going there with the case of let's thrash this horse and get a win out of her. It was more like let's run her first run of the season, and then I think with a view to potentially going for targets down the line. So I was happy to upgrade what she did last time. She's got a bit of a swing with Ruby's Prophet as well. Now she is only 13-2, and I say only because it's an 18-runner dash and it's a minefield of a race, so she's relatively short enough. But as much as there could be cases made for ones at bigger prices in the field, I've got an eye on this Mademoiselle to win a nice enough race this season, and that run that she did last time out was eye-catching enough to make me think that this could be the start of something. So I don't want to get too excited because it is the 5 furlong dash at Epsom, and I was definitely too excited about Silky Wilkie last year. But I think Mademoiselle's a really nice type, and she's the one that I would be hoping can go well in here.
6-1 then. And are you going to try and take advantage of the 4 places on offer with Bitano, or are you just going to go all in?
Oh no, I'm definitely going to have to go each way, but I don't even think 4 places might be enough. When there's 18 runners in a dash, it should basically be if you finish in the top half, you've done well. But she is, yeah. she is drawn in 5 as well, and it's like the draw in this race, I think in the proper dash as well. I think stall 1's like the winning most stall in the dash, but you do want to be on the higher side. And I think with the rain as well, like the rain's up on ground, you will want to be on the rail. She's unfortunately like drawn the wrong side of it, and that Ruby's Prophet's drawn the right side of it. And also because, like I say, her best runs come when she can make all. In an 18-runner race where they're all trying to fly the gates, if she just doesn't get out, then you probably could say that it might be race over right from the bat. So they are risky betting propositions, but I'd still like to play her each way, because if she does hit the front, there could just be one that's gets a bit more luck in running, I guess.
Yeah, goodness me, certainly so in this race of all of them anyway. But yeah, Mademoiselle 6-1 with Bitano. Now, before I go to Andrew, you know who we haven't seen for a few weeks? It's Kiwi.
Hello, Kiwi.
She is back. She is back in the background. I don't know if the video will crop that actually, but anyway, she is nosing behind, desperate to know who's going to win the 3-year-old dash, Andrew.
Excellent. I'll have to get my cat involved next week. Pudding, though, she's pretty shy. So
I didn't even know you had a cat. How am I only finding this out now? I've known you for how many years?
My oldest daughter didn't know we had a cat for the first 2 years of her life, because every time she came in a room, Pudding would run out of it straight away because she didn't like kids. But she's mellowed now. It's taken 6 years, but
great cat behaviour, that is.
Absolutely typical, isn't
Classic.
it? But yeah, this is only the 3rd running of the 3-year-old dash. I mean, 3-year-olds are allowed to run in the main race, but I think only 4 have done so in the last 10 renewals. This was a big draw race last year. The first 5 home were drawn 20, 17, 19, 15, and 16. It was one of those hindsight races. You thought, well, I should have just backed the top half dozen stalls each way with all those extra places some firms offer, and made a fortune. And they went pretty hard that day. The winners come from well in rear. The runner-ups come from midfield. Doesn't always work out that way. I mean, Dave touched on Ruby's Prophet and her fantastic skate speed. She was amazing at Goodwood last time. I watched the replay of that race, and after sort of 50 yards, see how far she's clear, and she maintained it. And race down the middle of the track was the place you need to be in Goodwood in 5 furlong races. If she does that here from stall 18 down that rail, she's going to be sort of hard to pass, I thought. But there's obviously other front runners in the race, and she's priced accordingly. She's about 7-2. Those people who like to trade on the exchanges, backing her at sort of 7-2, 4-1, putting into late sort of 2-1 and evens might be the way to go. I'll certainly have something on her. I don't want to lose if she wins. The other interesting angle here is Mick Easterby's runners. Now, Mick Easterby doesn't send many runners down to Epsom. I think it's only 22 this century. 2 of them have won, and 8 more finished in the frame. So, sort of 10 of the 22 finished in the first 4. Brazen was second from a low draw in this race 2 years ago. I was quite interested in Glorious Kitty, who by Kotai Glory, as the name suggests, a sire that gets plenty of winners in the mud. And I thought this one from a low draw could go well. So I will back Glorious Kitty each way at a price. Have a little saver on Ruby's Prophet, the current favourite, and just hope they go so fast down that near side that the pace collapses and one or two of those drawn low can get into it.
Yeah, and Glorious Kitty's in stall 1 as well. Apt name after who I've just been teeing up in the background as well. So nicely done, nicely done. 14-1 as well with Batana about Glorious Kitty. And Andrew, just a reminder of the other one with below draw.
No, that was Glorious Kitty from the low draw, and Ruby's
Just
Prophet, sort of drawn in 18.
there you go. Right, perfect. Okay, so we're taking one from either side there in the 3-year-old dash. Right, onto the proper dash this time. Like you say, it is open to 3-year-olds still, 3-year-olds and over, but not too many try to attempt that unless they are above the 0 to 95 threshold, really, from the 3-year-old dash. Over the 5 furlongs again, Heritage Handicap, 13-2 the field, headed by JM Jungle and Jerbat, both at 13-2 in this one. We've actually got last year's winner in here in Dream Composer, and from 2 years ago, T Spirit in here as well. So Novello not taking up this engagement after he won it a couple of years ago. So loads of our favourite sprinters back again for more, Andrew.
Yeah, that Novello win was quite controversial because half the stalls opened slower than the others, and it was the low half of the draw opened early, and they had a stewards inquiry, but they didn't render the result. They didn't call it a void race, which they should have done. It was such an advantage. Excuse me, frog in my throat. It was such an advantage to be drawn low that day. So if you're looking at draw stats, perhaps ignore Novello's race. That said, Dave touched on it earlier on. In the last 10 renewals, 3 winners have come from stall 1. And backing those blind, we returned a profit of £67 to 1 level take at SP. We went through a period where 9 times out of 10, a runner drawn in stall 1, 2, or 3 was in the place pot positions. And I tipped up Mountainous at 50-1 each way in this race from stall 2 a few years ago, finished second, only just chinned, which is a bit of a gutter. So do not be too worried about those low drawn runners. There's loads of pace, but it can still be hard for hold-up horses to win this race. And there's an interesting angle with last time out running style. Horses who were held up in their prep race were just 1 from 83 in the last 10 years. So you've either got to, if you're a habitual hold-up horse, you've got to change your running style ideally to have a chance here. Now, the ones that interest me, so last year's winner, Dream Composer. There's an excellent quote from the trainer on the Racing Post website, James Evans, basically says he likes going uphill and down dale. And if you split his form by flat track runs and undulating track runs, it's incredible. He just cannot cope with a flat track. If he turns up at Doncaster or York, Haydock, Newbury, you've got to ignore him completely. Last time out, he beat a couple at home at Chester. That's the wrong track for him. The time before, second by a neck at Pontefract. So back on a track that suits him, he could go well. His record on undulating tracks when returned to the track within a fortnight is 5 wins from 5 starts. Now, he was due to run at Newbury the other day, but was pulled out, and so he hasn't run for 30 days, which is a slight worry, but I'd still expect him to go well from stall 3. Another low-drawn runner I like is Vintage Clarets. Now, he was only 14th in this race a few years ago, but that was behind Novella when he was drawn high and his stall didn't open as quickly as the low-drawn runners did, so you can put a line through that. He ran a good race, finishing 6th of 17 down the wrong side of the track behind American Affair at York last time in a hot race. So he's a hold-up horse, admittedly, but I think he's going to, get a clear running, maybe get sort of 2nd, 3rd, or 4th here. Probably 3rd or 4th because 2nd's going to go to Existent, a horse we know loves finishing 2nd. His last 10 runs, he's had 6 second places, 3 third places, and a 4th. Existent never wins. He ran here in April behind Spartan Arrow. Spartan Arrow was drawn low that day. I think 14th round. I think Spartan Arrow was in stall 4. Spartan Arrow broke brilliantly under Holly Doyle. Came across in the near side rail, though never got right on the rail, and won from Existent. And I wouldn't be surprised to see that race sort of, be key to this. With say Spartan Arrow loves these sort of tracks. His combined record here at Goodwood and Brighton is 3 wins and 3 starts. He's coming out of stall 18. He's a lunatic front runner in the sort of Ruby's Prophet mold. Holly Doyle, stall 18. He's going to give you a run for your money down that near side rail. And Michaela's Boy was 4th in that course and distance April race when drawn in stall 1. He's drawn in stall 1 again. I thought he could go well for Robert Cowell. Robert Cowell is 0 from 17 in this race in the last 10 years. They're plenty of placed. And so yeah, I've got sort of various angles here, but I was looking at sort of doing combination sort of trifectas, banker Existent to finish second, and looking at Spot and Arrow, Michaela's Boy, Vintage Clarets, and Dream Composer to sort of finish first or third. If you can back Existent place only, sort of 7-2 or thereabouts, or back him to finish exactly second, I think that's a rock solid bet for stall 14. I think you can even like have a risky place pot banker, 20 runners Existent to be in the frame here. Because it's a cracking race. I love this race. It's a hard luck stories galore. But yeah, if I could nap, I was tempted to nap Existent to finish second, but I thought I was being a bit silly. But
well, no, we would allow it. Well, I would anyway. I think it's great.
I'll certainly put him up as the place only pick here.
Definitely so. He's 14-1 in the outright market, but like I say, you're not really interested in the win part of that. It is more the place angle and second specifically. So loads of combinations then to go out with Existent being the banker to finish second in the middle of those for Andrew. Dave, you're allowed something similar.
Yeah, I mean, fair play to Andrew for putting that one up as well. 5-2 is with Bernardo, betting 4 places for Existent. So 5-2, Andrew, does that tempt you?
Yes. Basically, it's probably an even money shot.
Yeah, well, there you go. Values to be had in all realms of it. It's made me think when Andrew was saying about that, where he was saying about Existent will not win this race. Just thinking of the clip after with me saying about Docklands being a bridal merchant. Those two obviously are both going to win on Saturday, aren't they? So it'd be worth taking a quid double on them. But yeah, I liked Vintage Clarets in this race. When I was doing Friends piece for this one, there's a bit of a profile that I picked up a few years ago. 2021, I think it was, found us a 25 or 33-1 winner. But it's basically because 6-year-olds do like perform really well in this race. It was you're looking for 6-year-olds, you're looking for horses that last ran, I think it's up to like 21 to 30 days ago. Ideally, they have run at Epsom. That would be another box to be ticked. They're rated between something and 99. Anyway, there's a realm of all these boxes to be ticked. Basically, I was waiting for the draw on Vintage Clarets because if it had been drawn in 13 plus, he would have been the 4th qualifier this century, and the other 3 all won. Imagine having a system with a 2,500% return on investment and then not getting it. But I think he's got a bit of a chance. And where we talked about the lowest stall being profitable in like to back blind, and that it has had a bit of a record in there. They will come to this stand side stuff, but you've got to think as like jockeys and things in a race as well. They've got to use their brains a little bit, haven't they? That they might all want to come to the stand side and it might think that that's the place to congregate. But if you're drawn in 2, I think you ultimately just need to take your medicine, ride your race on that outside position. And then if they do clash or they go a bit too hard on the inside, you probably still could pick up the piece on the outside. So he's definitely not without a chance, but he isn't 100% guaranteed bomb-proof because he's not drawn in still 13 or higher. Not that would have definitely made it. My worry as well is the jockey booking because he was late to be jocked up, and then Warren Fentimann's on there, who I don't mind as a jockey, but when this horse has been ridden by claimers, I think he's only won once, and a lot of the time he's been well down the field, and it's been a while since Warren Fentimann's had a winner. But why not go and win the dash? The other one that I quite like,
just going back to the claimer job, I think that's quite a sort of negative angle in this race, just from memory, because you imagine like 20 runners of Epsom's 5 furlongs, it's completely sort of lunatic territory, and experienced jockeys do tend to come to the fore.
Yeah, and that's what I was looking at too, because when I saw the rain was coming, I think he handles all ground. It would be nice to see that. And then he wasn't jocked up, and I did message a friend who put me onto another one in this race, who I'll bring up in a second. But we were saying that he was the only horse that's not been jocked up, but Ryan Moore didn't have a booking. So we were hoping that maybe they would book someone like that. And then, no disrespect, but they got Warren Fentiman instead. They put a claimer on. So tempered enthusiasm on Vintage Clarets, but I backed him anti-post in the hope we get a draw and a better jockey. So I've still got a little bit on him, but I wouldn't back him again. The one that I'm probably going to have a little bit of a go on is Fair Wind, who's, like I say, I got put on a bit more by a friend about this one to go and have another look back at him, because I was a bit critical of him after he refused to race at Goodwood, put him on the naughty step and thought, I just don't want to be near him again. But he's got the ability to be a much better horse than 93. Like, this is the type of horse, maybe like an American Affair type one, that goes through those handicaps, does well, and you look at them and think they should be in pattern company. And if I think that, then he's got to be off of a reasonable mark off of 93. You go back to last season, and I mentioned American Affair there. He won a couple of races and sandwiched either side. Well, that was sandwiched either side of when he ran behind American Affair, which wasn't a terrible run. He's pretty consistent. And I don't mind the fact that with his running style, the fact that he comes off of the back a little bit, that I don't mind that in a race like this, because as much as you might want to be on the front end of stuff, if if you need to get out and lead and you don't make it, then you cannot win the race. If you're out the back, then you need to get some luck. But basically, until you don't get your luck in running, you've got every chance of going well. He is only about 10-1, but I think that's more out of respect for the fact that this horse is better than his mark. Obviously, he had that issue at Goodwood where he refused to race when he was sent off as favourite. But, you trust the trainers to know what they're doing with these types of horses to get them back into decent condition for these types of big races. So I thought Fairwind at 10-1 would end up being the selection, but I will still put Vintage Clarets in there because there are 4 places up for grabs, aren't there? So we'll have a couple of each way darts in here, and like Andrew said, this would be the leg to get through the play spot.
Yeah, this is definitely that one, isn't it? So your eyes are trained to try and look for those horses that are going to be reaching the frame. But Vintage Clarets 12 to on the outright market, Fairwind at 10s as well. Right, that was the dash. And we talk about claimers in it, and like you say, apart from last year, Joe Levy, £5 claimer winning it, but before that, obviously a whole load of non-claimers. So you never know, lightning may strike twice, but yeah, the overall record is not good for claimers until you go, like say, just back to last year then for Joe Levy. Right, we are going to move on to the big one itself, the Group 1 Derby for the 3-year-olds over a mile 4, comes up at 3:30 at Epsom, and we have a field of 19 runners to go out as well, which means that it is the biggest Derby field since 2003 when Criskin came home first of 20 runners. Now, of course, Aidan O'Brien seeks a record extending 11th victory. He has 3 chances: Delacroix, Lion in Winter, Lambourn, Ryan Moore on Delacroix, Colin Keane on the Lion in Winter, Wayne Lorden on Lambourn. Of course, we have this year's 2,000 guineas hero ruling court. He's bidding for the classic double. We have Dante winner, Pride of Arras, and he is, of course, looking to provide a first Derby success for trainer Rafe Beckett, who also saddles Stan Hope Garden. So it looks a hugely exciting, hugely wide open renewal as well. Dave, who wins?
It's a hard one to call, isn't it? I'm glad you've mentioned Criskin though, because that reminds me when I watched that in Ladbrokes with my old man, and he backed the winner, and he said, "Don't tell your mum." So, mum, if you watch, mum, if you watch it, he owes you a tenner because he had a good win on that one. But that's the thing with these derbies, right? You don't get a bad winner of a derby, and I know people might say some years it wasn't like a vintage renewal, but when you start to look back in retrospect at those ones, there's always just bits and pieces and nice components of it. And I love the derby. I think everyone should. Don't feel like it's got as much hype this year as it probably deserves. Like I haven't seen any adverts on TV and things for it. Not that I watch it that much.
We need the tombola in Epsom Town Square again in front of the Wetherspoons is what we need to raise the profile and the hype. I missed that this year. I missed it this year. It was,
I know, and I know it's being critical for critical. So didn't they use the FA Cup bag to do the draw out of the balls as well? And you think it's Betfred Derby? Like, how have they not got it branded? How do they not make a bigger thing of it? But well, we are. That's not the point of moaning of it. But that's not to like take away from the fact that this looks like it's a very good renewal. But that said, I'm very conflicted with the fact that I really liked the Lion in Winter last year. Fancied him for that Acon when it was rattling fast ground. He did the course record for kids, didn't he? And I know that he hasn't run that well in the Dante, but he ran all right in the Dante. It wasn't a complete and utter write-off. But obviously with the yards and him not being ridden by Ryan Moore is bad enough, like kicking the teeth, to have any confidence about him. But then if Wayne Lorden's gone over him as well, when he rode him on that first start as a 2-year-old, when he beat a Ryan Moore mount in there and looked like an absolute aeroplane, it does make you start to worry a little bit. Now, I rate Colin Keane as a jockey, so I'm happy that he's on the Lion in Winter. I backed him anti-post. That's where I'm sat with him. So I'm happy that I've got the ticket. I still think he's got a chance, but you'd have to be a bit brave to be backing him with that pecking order and with that wide draw out in 19, because for all that they could make use of him, and by the time they get to the corner where they turn left-handed, they could get him to the front. He is a bit of a keen horse, isn't he? And I don't think they'd want to be doing that. They might want to ride him for cover, but then who knows? If they do decide to do that, be bullish with him from the outside and think, let's just try and get his race running that first half a furlong before they turn to the left side and make the race of it. If he's settled out in front, I think he's actually got a chance. The reason I mention him so much, and for all that I don't want to put him up as a selection, is the fact that I don't think it really bodes too well about Delacroix. Now, I think he is a very nice horse. He is bred to go and win a derby, and he looks like a really nice type. But I do feel like the Lion in Winter at the start of the season and the back end of last year was the derby horse for Aidan O'Brien. And just because things haven't gone to plan with him, Delacroix is ultimately the next best horse, which could potentially be good enough to go and win some derbies. But the fact that he's as short as 3-1 on here on what he's done, and I know he has achieved plenty, he just hasn't achieved anywhere near, in my mind, as much as Ruling Court's done with that 2,000 guineas win. And he's a 7-2 poke in here. So I think those two should probably flip-flop in the market for all that Aidan O'Brien's horses will be more popular than Charlie Appleby's might be at the moment. So Ruling Court would be the one that I'd prefer to side with in here. Look, that Acomb run when I talked about the Lion and Winter on that rattling fast ground, Ruling Court probably impressed me that day. But for all that I thought the Lion and Winter would beat him there, I thought that the Ruling Court would get really outsped, and he didn't. It was rattling fast. He couldn't go quite as quick as the Lion and Winter, but no horses really could that day. I still thought he stayed on like stoutly, and I thought his 2,000 guineas win was actually pretty good, because for all that people were digging into Field of Gold's ride, there was enough time when Kieran Schumacher asked him that if he was good enough, he would have gone by. Him and Ruling Court both came from the same part of the track, and he looked pretty strong in the finish as well. So I think that Ruling Court deserves to be favourite in here. I'd rather side with him because he's the horse that's been the Guineas horse. And I know they don't want to think too far ahead of things, but he's been almost the obvious one to be a Derby horse. He's done nothing to like discredit his claims in what he's done so far this season. But I think all the hype around the Lion and Winter stuff and Ryan Moore choosing Delacroix and the fact that Aidan O'Brien's been winning all those trials since those 2,000 guineas has almost blindsided him a little bit, because he is the highest rated horse in this race. And that has historically, it sounds like an obvious thing to say, but it's been a really good thing to follow. City of Troy was £6 or £7 clear of everything last year. And for all that he bombed in that 2,000 guineas, he obviously goes and hacks up in a Derby. So they're obviously different types of horses, but I just think that Ruling Court at 7-2 is probably about a fair price. And as much as I think he'll go a favourite, I don't think his price will contract too much. I'd imagine that Delacroix could drift a little bit. And the horses that have come from that Dante, like your Pride of Arras and then Demesis and even the Line of Winter that was in there, I don't think that Dante form is going to be that strong in the fact that, or in the respect that the Line of Winter must have been so far off of his best for Ryan Moore to be so dismissive of him after the drifts that he's had in the market, that it makes me feel like if an 80% Line and Winter could finish a few lengths behind him in a Dante, then the rest of them in front of him can't be Derby type horses. So using that line of form to basically grab Delacroix, grab everything else, and somehow boost Ruling Court's 2,000 guinea win.
Yeah, and then to do the full circle, then come back around to Ruling Court 7-2 to do the classic double. Of course, we don't really associate the 2,000 guineas now going on to the Derby. It's just for St James's Palace, isn't it? Rather than the 1,000 guineas, we tend to associate those fillies with more stamina and then to go on to the Oaks. But it would be great to see it done, though, wouldn't it? Like, say, for the 2,000 guineas and to the Derby. So Ruling Court it is for Dave. Andrew, who do you like?
Yeah, cracking race, this isn't it? Very tricky. It's normally the race I try and stab out one at sort of 100 to 1 plus to get in the frame like Who Ya Mal a few years ago.
I was going to say in the what's its face colours, the green and white. I can never remember.
Shake Jabocha, I'm thinking with Jiggy Bob.
That's the one.
That's the fun. Yeah, so I'm sort of like naturally inclined to go away from the head of the market when there's a field of this size. Although Pride of Arras, I do like, this century, 21 Dante runners have lined up, and 5 of them have gone on to win the Derby. Horses beaten in the Dante are 1 from 35 this century. Although I do quite like Demesis, because Demesis obviously came from off the pace in the Dante when it generally paid to race prominently. The winner was described as in touch with leaders. Wimbledon Hawkeye was prominent, racing in second place in the early stages. Devil's Advocate, the 80 to 1 fourth, was up at the pace. So the ones who made ground from off the pace that day, like Nightwalker in 5th and Demesis in 2nd, were the ones that sort of, I thought, needed their runs upgrading. But yeah, Pride of Arras, 2 from 2. A son of New Bay, who's progeny doing incredibly well off the back of a top 3 effort. Got an amazing record, just having finished the first 3 of the late starts, back them blind, and you make a huge profit. So I thought Pride of Arras had to be on the short list. Demesis because of that best of the closest effort in the same race. Nightwalker, I'm worried about the track. I wanted to sort of make a case for him because of that Dante run, but after he ran at Newmarket last season, I sort of said that because he didn't handle the dip, I thought he'd be a horse to back on flat tracks, and his win came at Yarmouth. I put him up as an each way bet at York last time. He just missed out on a place that day, so I don't think this track will suit. But he's a horse I've got in mind for later in the season. And the other one I thought was sort of pretty useful was Lambourn. That I thought was a fair price at around about 10 or 12 to 1. Given that you chuck out that run in first-time blinkers when he didn't seem to face them, he finished last than 5 at the Curragh. His other 4 runs have produced 3 wins and a second to Delacroix, when just seasonal debut, ridden from off the pace when the winner's made or made most of the running. And the winner was a much shorter price stablemate, and it didn't look, it looked like Plan A was just to sort of like chase that one home and not give him a race. So I thought Lambourn with Wayne Lorden on at 12-1 was a sort of fair each way shout. So I'll go for him. But I'm not going to be getting sort of heavily involved financially. I don't think. I'm just going to watch it and enjoy it.
Yeah, it is just one of the races, isn't it, that you do, I mean, at the best of times you want to just watch and enjoy, but especially this year with the 19 runners to go out as well. But Lambourn is 11-1, and yeah, he's just that price really because of the way that the jockey bookings have worked out, haven't they? But in terms of him and his profile and as a horse, he really hasn't done much wrong at all, so it's a fair price to reflect that. Why not chuck some more names into the mix then? Because I do like Pride of Arras. I'm concerned about the top two in the market here, about Delacroix being by Dubawi, the best, as it's been well documented. His progeny have done is finished 5th in the Derby. In terms of the Oaks, it's not that much of a better record either for Dubawi, so it's always going to be a big concern. Of course, Rural Court has the stamina concerns as well, especially with some juice in the ground. Now, Pride of Arras, admittedly, does have his own stamina concerns that he has to answer, but just as much as the others, he's probably a little bit shorter than may have liked, but he is far less experienced, as we know, with just the 2 runs to his name, but unbeaten in those. And of course, he won the most prestigious Derby trial of them, the Dante at York. We know in that, of course, the hot favourite, the Lion in Winter, really fluffed his lines that day to finish 6th. But Pride of Arras, he was largely unfancied in the market that day, but was hugely impressive. Reappearance start, just his 2nd career outing. He is related to 2 Epsom winners, one of which did win over the course and distance of the Derby as well. So, in my opinion, he's more likely to save a trip on pedigree than the top 2 in the betting and able to handle the track. So I'm hoping Pride of Arras can give Rafe Beckett a first Derby winner. And at a bigger price, I was looking for one at the bigger price to chuck into the mix. And I didn't think Tornado Alert was out of it by any means. Of course, another one sporting the Godolphin Blue, trained by Saeed bin Saror. And he ran a really big race in his sole start this season when he was forfeit 50-1 in the 2000 Guineas. And he just kept on really well after having the run of things on the front end. That was his first go on turf, so he would have learned plenty. Stamina, again, another bit of a concern. Who is it not for in this race? But he's a half-brother to a Group 1 1-mile 4 winner in Australia. So at a price, I thought that Tornado Alert should be considered about 33-1 as well. So loads of names to go into the mix there.
You're allowed to take a chance on one with the stamina down at that sort of price. It's when there's 3-1 favourite that you've got to think 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. Every horse has its price. The vast majority of these have stamina concerns to one extent or the other. He's another one, but at 33-1, I'm far more likely to take the chance on him to get the trip than I am at something at a much shorter price. So yeah, cracking renewal of the 2025 Derby. Now, of course, we have the Oaks on Friday. We are recording this on Thursday afternoon, but it would have been remiss of me not to get the lads' opinions, and then we'll complete the classic double, hopefully. So lads, Botano have a GG exclusive offer as well. Bet 10 on the Oaks, get 15 for the Derby. New and existing customers with the promo code GG Epsom, all capital letters, all together, no spaces, GG Epsom. So full T's and C's will be in the video description. So make sure to take advantage of that exclusive GG offer. So Andrew, I'll go back to you for the Oaks.
Sorry, I'm in mourning. I've just noticed Hurt You Never's won the two at Hamilton. That's I wrote up in Racing and Football Outlook this week as one to back in the 242 at Hamilton this week, and somehow I've managed to miss it. But never mind.
It's because you're busy tied up with us. So I can only apologise.
Desert Flowers, fantastic filly, isn't she? And remains unbeaten. Big step up in trip. Love to see her do it. But in terms of a bet, I've got to go boots each way. This is another Night of Thunder, so you'll be a fan of this one, Kate.
Yeah, straight away.
And she won her first 2 starts, both on the poly track at Lingfield, latterly, by a wide margin when, albeit a sort of prohibitive price. She's then gone to York, running the Musadora behind World. First run on turf, Group 3 company. And although the winners won very easily, she's 5 3/4 length back in third. She's weak in the betting. It's good to firm ground. If you look at the size stats for Night of Thunder, the softer the ground, the better, pretty much. And I thought that was still an encouraging effort first time out. Kieran Schumacher on the board that day, replaced by Oisin Murphy. And I don't see that with sort of 2 wins and a third to Whirl, who's an 11-2 shot, how she can be sort of 50-1 plus in this race. So each way 3 places, go Boots for me.
As a clear outsider of the field, go Boots in the Oaks for Andrew. Dave, I would say beat that, but you literally can't.
No, he's ruined it, isn't he? Thanks for that, Andrew. It's another one. It's another one a bit like the Derby. Like it's a really exciting race, but there's definite concerns with Desert Flower about stamina in her breeding. And again, I think the bunch of the Aidan O'Brien horses that are in it, don't want to be rude to them because they all look good when they won their trials as well. But don't know, they don't feel like vintage Oaks crops for Aidan O'Brien. So maybe it'll be a bad weekend for him, but it probably won't, will it? I do think Desert Flower, the class of her, could just be better than all of these. And like when she's somewhere between like 6-4, 7-4 at the moment, you think, well, okay, that's probably about where she should sit. I can imagine that she might be weak in the market, especially if there's there is rain in the ground anyway. But if that seems to be a significant impact after the first couple of races, I think people will start to try and take her on. But I would imagine that she either gets the trip or she doesn't get the trip, and it won't be because the ground's made it a little bit softer. I just think she's either got the class to do it or she hasn't. So if she starts to push north of 2-1, then I think I would probably have to have something on her. But at the time of recording, she's not that, and there's a chance that she doesn't get there. So for the purpose of now, the one that I was starting to try and make a case for was Elwatine, because they supplemented it. I liked Falakea from Shadwell as well, but they decided to not take her in, even though she had the entry. But Elwatine probably shouldn't stay on stamina as well. You've already mentioned about the Dubawis, but then a Dubawi did win it last year, didn't it, in Azealia? And then if you look at that horse as well, she came from the Salsabil. Now, we talked about Delacroix being favourite for a Derby. They go down the normal route. Aidan O'Brien, he goes to the Ballysack, then he goes to the other one after. But in that Ballysack Stakes, Joseph O'Brien ran We Might Take the Long Way in there, who is a 16-1 shot in this race. From the way that the market's been priced up and the way that this race is going to settle out, she's got good form. She beat Money Hook on yielding ground on her second start. Obviously got that run behind Delacroix. Lambourn was in the race as well. They're fancied for Derbies. Their form can't do anything before this Oak, so people are just going to get excited about that line of form, whether it's good or it's bad anyway. But she was a real good winner of that Salsabil Stakes. That was on soft ground. She definitely will stay this Oaks trip. So at 16-1, she just looks glaringly overpriced. She should probably be more like a 5 or 6-1 shot in it. But like I say, because you've got Desert Flower and because you've got multiple Aidan O'Brien horses and because you've got a horse that's been supplemented, I think she's just been overlooked in the market at the time of recording. So she'd be the selection for now. But if you're watching it on Friday afternoon and Desert Flower's gone like 5-2, then maybe have a bit of that as well.
Yeah, definitely be watching the betting then, and especially with the amount of rain that's going to have hit Epsom as well. We're only really going to get a proper gauge of it tomorrow, aren't we, on Friday? But that is a look ahead to the Oaks, and Botano are not done there in terms of their offers, because they are also going even money on Calandagan in the Coronation Cup. He is currently a 4-5 shot, so Botano go even money. Make sure to take advantage of that price with Botano if you fancy the short price favourite in the Corrie Cup. Again, T's and C's in the video description. Right, Dave, I'll go back to you, please. Anything from anywhere else?
No, it is the semi-finals of the Ground Derby, though, and they've got loads of good competition. So Saturday, make sure you're watching Gone to the Dogs live on YouTube. The Greyhound racing is flying, and then it's the final next week. That's going to be an absolute banger as well. So up the Dogs.
Up the Dogs, there you go. Shout out for there. I may as well shout out the Belmont then for stateside. We've got everything going on. Dogs, American racing, the Derby. Andrew, where are we going for anything from anywhere else? If there is
there's
anything.
a few of the non-televised Epsom races. The 4:15, the 1.5 mile Northern Dancer Handicap. 4:10 Fever for George Bowe might improve for the first time cheap pieces. A positive angle for the odds runners in handicaps. The 5 o'clock, the 10 furlong handicap. There's a bizarre stat with this race. Horses who finished 9th or worse last time out. 4 from 9 in the last 10 years for a profit of 69 quid. It seems that often horses leave a bad run behind them when running here. The Law of Design had excuses last time and will like any cut in the ground. It could go well for Brian Meehan. And the 5:40, I've got 4 on my shortlist at the moment. Ian Williams has got a fine record in Epsom sprints since 2018. 6 winners from 13 runners for a profit of £50.50. He's won this 6 furlong handicap before. He's got purest time, second run to the yard. I've Dubai for John and Sean Quinn's another one. Orne, I think it's Gosden running for Anthony Britton could go well. Rousing Encore, a winner last time out for Ruth Carr. there's an amazing stat with this race regarding horses who've travelled from a long way, often from up north. You look at the roll of honour for trainers, all tended to sort of be sort of coming from the Midlands or further north. Sort of Newmarket trainers, local trainers really sort of have a terrible record in this race. So if I was sort of cutting that down to one, I'd probably go Rousing Encore for Rithcon. He has won this before with Badri.
Yeah, Rousing Encore. Then he's 5 to 1. We've got actually those races priced up that aren't being televised either for the 5 o'clock and the 5:40, but loads of bigger prices in there as well that you were just talking about. And in the 5 o'clock as well, the horse that you were mentioning there is 25 to 1. I did just see. So yeah, loads of big price horses to go out for those concluding couple of contests for Andrew at Epsom. Andrew, back to you please for your nap.
I'm going Persica. I think he should be favourite. And is he the 135, isn't it?
Yeah, Persica then to flip-flop with favoritism and is just the wrong price according to Andrew. So it goes in as his nap. Dave, you were agreeing on that front to a large extent, but in terms of your nap, please.
So Andrew's going to give us the winner of the second race. I'll give us the winner of the first race, which Andrew's doing too, because he agrees that Royal Dress is the one to side with in the Princess Elizabeth Stakes, the 1 o'clock.
Oh,
any chance of an enhanced double, please, Pitano?
I'm merely the ambassador. I am definitely not in charge of that. The traders will absolutely have my guts for garters if I started to take that upon myself. But we can try. We can ask them very nicely and see if they can do anything then for us. I'm going to chuck in Pride of Arras. Why not then go to the Derby for my own nap of the weekend? So that is everything from us on this week's show. Now, we have something very, very special coming up as well next week. So make sure to stay tuned for that. But the three of us will be in person again, and I will leave it as that. So make sure to keep your eyes peeled for a very special show coming up. But lads, thank you so much for all of your hard work and time as ever. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to our sponsors, Botano. Enjoy the racing this weekend, and we'll speak to you again very soon.